This is giving you something to talk about, or just a live TV as I like to call it. My name is Krechler. I am your host. I am an identity coach, spiritual teacher, business mentor, creator and founder of not only Just a Live TV, but also the Women Supporting Women Can Network. You can find me and my guest co-host in the description of this video. Today, we are talking about how to show up for yourself. And this one is all about making yourself your number one priority, making sure that you're showing up. We tend to show up for everybody else, but not ourselves. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how to show up for yourself. Today's episode has been sponsored by Steph Chu, who just happens to be our guest co-host. She is offering you access to her mini course on how you can love your body naked and start feeling stronger and more confident without ever feeling stuck again using the Love Your Body Naked system, which absolutely. And for somebody who is plus size like myself, I have to say that having a program like this is absolutely beneficial. Go check that out. Link in the description. Again, who doesn't want to love their body naked? Because most of us look in the mirror and we're like, nope. So yeah, go and check that out. So today, actually for anybody watching, go and check us out. Link in the description, like and follow the show on your favorite social platforms, as well as make sure that you sign up for our newsletter at Just a Live TV. All right. So I'm just trying to find out where I can monitor my chat. So while I'm doing that, Stephanie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Melissa, for having me on the show. My name is Steph Chu. I am a strength and mindset coach that is based in New York City. I'm the creator of the Love Your Body Naked system. So essentially what my goal is to help women transform their bodies so that they love who they are, like deep down. So not just you naked in a physical sense, but if you were to take away everything, who are you being left with? So that we can feel stronger and more confident in our own skin. So it's like the same, right? It's like just being able to show yourself and knowing that you are a priority. And I truly believe that when you focus on being a priority for yourself, when you start loving who you are, then loving your body naked is just going to come naturally.
That is, absolutely true. It is. You know what? The confidence you find when, and I come at it the other way. So you're talking about love your body. And I go for the mindset of it, right? And I'm assuming you do the same as well, but we all kind of work a little bit of mindset magic. But at the same time, for me, it's a lot of, just unconditionally loving yourself. And when you can unconditionally love yourself, and since, you're with your program, Love Your Body Naked, one of the first things I am actually, because originally I thought she wasn't promoting, but of course she is. So I had put mine in there. And what I've done is I launched, I'm doing a 5-day challenge, and I'm not promoting. I just want to explain because it goes hand in hand with this, right? Is I'm doing a 5-day challenge on, being an empowered warrior woman. And what that is, loving yourself unconditionally and finding who you are underneath all the noise. And one of the things that we do in the program that follows that is, looking in the mirror and looking at yourself in the mirror and going, who are you, right? What do you subconsciously or consciously saying to yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror? Now, I love myself unconditionally. That doesn't mean I always like what I see in the mirror. Right? I'll look in the mirror and I see the rolls and I see the stretch marks and I see all this stuff, right? And at the same time, I love myself unconditionally and I don't let that bring me down. But at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, really don't like that. That is okay. You can still love yourself unconditionally and not like something about yourself, whether it's the way you act, the way you look, the way, but a lot of people nowadays, if they don't like the way that they look, if they don't like the way that they act, that transfers into non-unconditional self-love, right? And it becomes, society says, you're not good enough if you're overweight. You're not good enough if you don't look this or look that. And I say, screw that. I actually, and I've pointed this painting out a few times. I had this painting commissioned and I sent the artist like a basically naked photo to do this. Right. And it was to empower or embody my own personal power, right? Yep. That is my power. And it was all about passion. It was all about the chakras and, you know, getting into who I am and what I love about myself. And for me, it's always been passion. And that's not just in the intimate sense, although, yes. My husband and I don't like, but at the same time, it's passion in everything. There's a passion, but it's not just a passion for life or a passion for helping people. It's a passion for yourself. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about today, is showing up for yourself when, you know, you should be putting yourself as your number one priority. I'm going to let you talk for a minute.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I 100% agree with everything that you're saying. The mindset is obviously a huge aspect of it. And I completely agree, is everyone should unconditionally love themselves, because you can do so many great things when that's actually the case. I'm coming at it from a fitness perspective. That is what my background is. This is how I learned how to love myself. So I think that's the path that makes sense the most. And I think it's hard. So for me, growing up, I did not love myself. I didn't know, I had no self-esteem, no self-worth. For me, fitness is what kind of showed me that it was like, hey, you're capable of a lot more, right? You can do this. Like, you can go pick up a barbell. You can do all these things. You can still eat food and you don't have to feel guilty for it. Like, you don't have to, if you look in the mirror, right? Today, maybe I do have a couple rolls, but oh, well, who cares, right? Because it's like, hey, I do love myself. So I do think that all of it ties in together, right? There's no one thing that is right or wrong that you can do first. Like, it's either, your mindset is always going to lead you like through, your entire fitness journey. So like a lot of people who come, they're like, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds because I don't like the way that I look. And I'm like, all right, hey, why don't we change a little bit? What is your mindset? What do you like about yourself? What do you like? Who are you? And the scary thing to me is a lot of people don't know how to answer that question. It's always, they're like, oh, but all I want to do is lose 10 pounds. And I'm like, okay, then what happens after you lose the 10 pounds? Are you going to feel better about yourself? Has who you are changed? Or are you just going on a diet, just for the sake of losing 10 pounds? So definitely mindset, everything that you just said, yes, but it's like, there's so many different aspects to it and it is complicated. So for me, the Love Your Body Naked system, hopefully it kind of simplifies it a little bit, because it's like a little bit of self-love, a little bit of mindset, a little bit of fitness, a little bit of everything to find what you love.
Yep, absolutely. And that is it, right? We have the ability to love ourselves in every aspect. And I was going to pull something out of what you just said, and I can't remember what it was now. Oh yes, the loving yourself when, right? We how do I word that? Weight is a huge one, right? Weight and physical appearance is a huge one. That is what a lot of people struggle with, is their physical appearance, right? I don't wear makeup, right? I don't wear makeup. I'm 90% of the time I'm in tank tops. Today I'm in a sports bra and tank tops. Yeah. And that's my comfort, right? Yeah. But at the same time, I still feel good. But again, I am plus size, right? I'm over 200 pounds. I'm 5'9", so it is a little bit of added weight, right? And the little double hanging chin here, I think that's genetic stuff. But with that, I hear a lot of people say, I'll be happy when, right? Yeah. And I'm going to be doing an episode on that exact comment futuristically. But when people say, I'll be happy when I lose 20 pounds, I'll be happy when I look like this, I'll be happy when I achieve this, that's great. And I'm glad that you feel that way, but that doesn't work. What ends up happening is, when coming from the mindset aspect of that, if you set a goal for yourself and you say, I'm going to be happy when I reach this goal, you're not actually creating that happiness. You'll be happy when that happens. I'm not saying you won't. Absolutely you will be. If you set a goal to lose 20 pounds and you lose that 20 pounds, you're going to be happy when you lose that 20 pounds. But because you're not unconditionally loving yourself and you're not happy with yourself to begin with, what's going to end up happening is you're going to pick at something else. You're going to find something else that you don't like about yourself. Now you're going to be complaining because, I have to go shopping for an entire new wardrobe. Nothing fits me. I don't feel good, and whatever that looks like, you're going to pick on something different. And that always happens.
No, agreed. And I think that happens a lot in the fitness industry, right? You see, someone you see on Instagram where you're like, oh my God, like she has a beautiful body, blah, blah, blah. But like behind the scenes, like, a couple of years later, this girl is talking about how she's super unhappy, or she disappears, often it's like, because you're just basing like your value based off your looks, and like going back to higher priority, you're a lot more valuable than, just how you look. Like even, I wear sports bras all the time, right? And even when I go out, people are like, why are you wearing gym clothes? And I'm like, this is what makes me comfortable, right? And I think that's a part of showing up for yourself. Like, even like for you, right? If you're going to wear like a super tight dress all the time, and, we're just at home wearing like business suits and stuff, like, I don't think, like for me, at least, that's not who I am. And that to me is kind of, in a way, it's not, it's not being true to myself. So even if I did, work out like every single day, go to the gym, I had the perfect body, then at the end of the day, like going back my mindset, I'm not staying true to myself though. So it wouldn't even matter that I had a perfect body because I'm not happy with who I am.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so we're talking about happiness, right? And showing up for yourself. Now, one of the main things I want to mention in this video, and one of the best ways to show up for yourself, is if you have, and we're women, so this goes for men and women, non-binary. I don't care what your gender identifier is, but I will say women because we predominantly work with women. Is when you are, and I totally see, this is what happens when I lose my train of thought. I swear, we were talking about it the last 4 weeks, the last month has been like, bam. And I totally lost where I was going with that, but yes. Okay. So most of us, if you have a best friend, if you have a daughter or a son or a girlfriend or a sister, if you see whoever it is that you have in your life, if you see them and they're talking to themselves and they're doing everything for everybody else and they're running themselves to the ground, they don't like themselves, they're running around, they're working all the time, they have no time for themselves, what are you going to tell them, right? So I challenge everybody watching this video, everybody catching the replay, sorry, like keep seeing a reflection of something on my face. I challenge everybody joining this episode today, or even just, watching the replay, if you saw somebody else putting everybody else ahead of themselves, what would your advice to them be? What would you advise them to do? Would you advise them to start putting themselves first? Would you advise them that they're beautiful and they're amazing and they're strong? They don't have to work so hard. They can have playtime and them time. What would you say to them? Because that's what we're doing. We're instinctually, or even just society's conditioned us to put everybody ahead of ourselves, right? As women, and I'm going to say this particularly to women and mothers, is in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it was your man, right? It was as soon as you become married, right? Or even, you were raised by your father, your father was in control, right? They were in control of every aspect of your life. You never had control because you were married off, right? And then you were your husband's control, under your husband's control. You had to do everything they said. And then all you were meant for was eye candy and taking care of the kids, right? You were a broodmare, basically. So if you have all of this, like conditioning of the last few centuries, right, where women have been, you have to put your husband first, then you like family first, husband first, children first, right? And you have to give everything you are to these people. Where have we been taught to put ourselves first? Where have we been taught that, I'm supposed to be first?
Right. Never. We've never been taught that. I think that's a whole journey. And I think it's like, it takes for yourself to go and recognize it. I think that even if, in my experience, at least, if you were to go see, yourself, like you're watching yourself and you're putting everyone else first, I think that most people wouldn't necessarily understand that. They're like, oh, I think I have to put myself first. I think it's like you experience and be like, all right, you know, when you're actually tired. And I think that's what's unfortunate is we all wait until we're like, all right, we've had absolutely enough. You know, we're tired of, you know, always like, you know, this person wants this, that person wants that, you know, you're doing everything like for everyone else and you're spread completely thin. And that's usually when we're like, okay, this is, now we're done, right? And I think it's even like, you know, some of my clients, right? I'm telling them, I'm like, hey, like, you know, go do something for yourself. And it's very, very hard for them to, because this is not something that you're used to. And I think that I could like, if like, for example, right, Melissa, like, you know, I'm watching you, you know, you have kids every single day, you're doing everything for your kids. And I'm like, hey, Melissa, like as a friend, I'm here to tell you, I was like, you should go take some time for yourself. And if you don't see that, I don't think you would be like, oh yeah, Steph is right. Maybe I should go take some time for myself. You'd be like, no, Steph is, you know, this is just stupid. I don't know what she's talking about. Everything is completely fine. But like deep down, you're like, okay, what do I do?
Well, I'm not even going to go, I'm going to go far back because you said we've never been taught that, but we were, right? Yeah. You look at some indigenous cultures, you look at Greek mythology, you look at the pharaohs and all of women were even gypsy cultures. Women were, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Embraced. They were honored, right? You look at even in spiritual, right? Spirituality. You've gotten the maiden. What is it? The maiden, the woman, and the crone. I believe it is. I can't remember exactly, so please don't come at me for that. But at the same time, women have been honored and revered. And I'm not saying that it's not like a domination or anything along those lines. But when you have cultures that each person has a role, not to say that they couldn't take on somebody else's role, right? But if you had men, because masculine energy was predominantly provider and protector, right? Where a feminine energy or a feminine role was creator, nurturer, and healer, right? But it didn't have to stay that way. You would have, you know, witch doctors that were men and women. You would have, you know, priests or not priests, but spiritual teachers who were men and women. There was none of that, right? And everybody, I think it didn't become until women were subjected to being products, basically, or like cattle. That's when the demographic changed. That's when we were told, you know, you're not a human being. You are a property.
For sure.
Right? And we're trying to battle. Yeah. But that's the thing. And that's even like spirituality. So I'm a spiritual teacher, right? I'm really crazy. I've got, you know, I'm a psychic medium. And in olden times, right? Egyptian times, Greek mythology, anybody who was a psychic or spiritual were protected. They had, you know, they were special, they were honored, they were protected. And that goes like multicultural, where people who had spiritual gifts and abilities were revered as being experts in that field. Right? Now it's terror. Now you've got ghosts and hauntings and you've got all of this, you know, stuff that social media, movies, Hollywood has said, oh, it's bad, it's crazy, right? You think of everything that we hear on a daily basis. You think everything we see on a daily basis tells us not to put ourselves first. Now we're in 2022 and now it's starting to shift.
Yeah. I think a lot of people also, you know, it's like, you know, thinking back, right? It's just like, no one's going to look that far back, right? It's just like, we're just like, all right, what are we doing right now? How can we, you know, everyone kind of focuses on, you know, their own past and they kind of like see in that little circle. And I think that also the big part of, you know, just kind of realizing who you are is kind of needing to look outside of the box, right? Like that's all part of it, right? It's just being like, hey, like, you know, back then, right? Spiritual teachers, everyone's revered, you know, there are goddesses, right? They were all also revered at one point and, you know, down the line. And then now we're just kind of like, okay, it's whatever, you know? So I think it also takes like having to look outside of the box and being like, all right, this is like who I am. And, you know, I don't always have to be someone who, you know, even going back to feminine energy, right? It's like when you are the creator and when you're trying to nurture for your family, I think like right now everyone kind of sees that as like a secondary thing, right? It's like, oh, like women belong in the home. They're meant to be taking care of things. But like, yes, you can take care of your home, but you can also take care of yourself. Like you can still do everything. And there's like always like a little list of priorities. But yeah, for some reason, everyone's decided they're like, oh, I'll come like last. And like, even going back to what you're saying, right? Like when you're saying that, you know, if you're to look at, you know, yourself, treat others or treat yourself, and the same, right? How would you treat other people the same way that you treat yourself? You know, when you go beat yourself up because you're like, oh, I don't look good today, or like, oh, I didn't get my work done. You know, I'm just so slow. I'm just like this. And it's like, would you go and tell someone else the same thing? So,
yeah, it's also a selfish society too, right? We've created a selfish society, and if we, you know, there's memes going around that says self-care is not selfish, right? Yeah. And it's not. It absolutely isn't. But how many times, and I'm going to go back to women with this, how many times, because women especially, and I'm not saying men don't experience this, but women especially are conditioned and taught that they have to put everybody else ahead of themselves, right? So you look at mothers, right? I'm a mother. I have, you know, technically I have 4 kids. And if I wanted a babysitter, if I wanted help, right? You look at, like I said, olden times, thousands of years ago, they raised children as a community. Yep. Everybody chipped in. You know, there were nannies, right? There were nannies. There were people who took care of the kids while other people went and did, you know, their job or their work or all of that, right? We haven't always been stay at home. That wasn't our role. We were actively part of a community. And I think we've become so individualistic, and I'm promoting individuality. Absolutely. I'm promoting individuality, but not in a sense of, I was talking to my oldest daughter about this yesterday, is when I tell you to focus on yourself and when I tell you to put yourself first, that doesn't mean hurt other people. That doesn't mean ignore other people's feelings. And yet we're putting everybody ahead of ourselves and ignoring our own feelings, ignoring our own needs. Why is it that a mother who wants to go out and have drinks with her friends or wants to go to a movie by herself is like, why? Yeah. You need to go with your kid. Like, no, if I want to go out, I'm going to go out. You know, if I have a partner, my partner's going to parent his children. And he knows that. A few weeks ago, I was having a really hard week. And I think it was Friday night and it wasn't that nice out, but I was like, I'm going out. I called up my friend. I said, what are you doing? Do you want to just go for a drive? Yeah. And we went for a drive. We talked. We probably spent an hour or 2 out. And that was it. He was like, go, have fun, right? Like, do your thing. Because he knew that's what I needed. Yeah. And when you have that coexisting partnership and going into relationships for a second, your partner should honor and respect the fact that you need time too. You need to rest and recharge. You need to fill your own cup. You're not all about filling their cup.
No, agreed. I think that also, it's like, I think like going back to relationships, right? And I think there's always like a lot of insecurity in relationships. And, you know, a lot of times people feel like they have to spend every single second together. And that's like something that I ran into a lot of my own relationships, is because I am very independent. Like I want to go do something on my own. And it's like, some days I'm kind of like, all right, like we already spent like a lot of time together. I'm just going to go sit by myself, like somewhere. And it's like, I think it's like, it's that, right? And so a lot of my partners are kind of like, hey, like, no, like that's not okay. You can't go and do that. And obviously it's going to go and create problems, right? If you know deep down that you're like, hey, like I just need, you know, a little bit of space, and like we can't be codependent on each other, but just being like, all right, you have to be 2 individuals, both loving who you are, like both loving each other, but then loving who you are. And I think that's what's always going to produce like a great relationship where you are communicating, just like showing up for like and being like the best versions of each other, right? And it's great that your husband is like really supportive as well, and I'm sure that you guys help each other grow. And I think that's something that even, you know, in yourself or in relationship with anyone, right? That's the most important thing, is that you continue to grow as a person. You know, if you're just kind of who you were, the same person who you were 10 years ago, then it's like, all right, the entire world is moving on without you. And do you think you're going to stay stuck, or are you going to become, you know, kind of follow along and be like, all right, how can I level up myself as well?
Yeah, exactly. The other thing, have you ever heard of a partnering?
Like, as in, like,
Being in a relationship. So
Yeah.
we did an episode, just segue, and I know I'm going off topic for a minute, but just a segue. There is an episode that we did, and it's called Love Your Way. And the lady that that spoke on that episode with me is in a partnership relationship, where they live in separate homes.
Right.
They're married, but they live in separate homes. They're only a couple blocks away from each other, but they live in separate homes, right? And there is a huge community of people who are leaning more towards that for their independence, right? They're still loving, they're still committed, they do things together, but they don't live together. They're honoring each other's space and that their individual lives, right? So that's a good episode for you to check out.
Oh, definitely.
Just on that topic. But
yeah,
relationships, even the relationship with yourself, right? It's all about perspective. There are 3 parts to every relationship. So there's my part, your part, right? Or your partner's part. Let's say you and I are in a partnership, right?
Yeah.
There's my individuality, your individuality, and then there's the relationship itself. It's like having a joint banking account, right? You have your own account, they have their own account, but you each have to put into that joint account to pay the bills, right? Every relationship's the same. Now, with your relationship with yourself, and going back to our topic today of, you know, making sure that you're putting yourself first and, you know, showing up for yourself. Think of how you show up. If you can show up for your kids, if you can show up for your clients, if you can show up for your partner, for your school, whatever it is that you're doing, if you can show up for other people, there is absolutely no reason why you can't show up for yourself other than conditioning.
Yep. Agreed.
That's literally it, right? So let's get into some ways that we can show up for ourselves. I know we kind of touched on a few, but let's detail them out a little bit more. The first one that I want to mention, that I mentioned kind of at the beginning of this episode, was, you know, how are you talking to yourself? How are you speaking to yourself in the mirror? What are you saying about who that person is looking back? There was a post in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, and it was, let's talk about gossip. And it was creating, I'm going to call her out on this, because why not? But I'm going to call her into this, and not like into the video, but I want to read it to you really quickly. So I just have to find it.
Self-talk is, it's, you know, it's even when I teach classes, even talking to myself during a workout, right? Like, not every day I don't feel like working out. And usually if the first thing I tell myself is, this is going to suck, you know, I just really hate this, I don't want to do this. Usually I have a very terrible workout. But if I just switch and be like, I'm going to have a great workout, I'm feeling really good today, even if I'm not, usually the workout ends up being pretty good, because it's just about how I speak to myself. And it's the same, right? Like about your body, for example. If you look at yourself every day and you're like, wow, my stomach just looks terrible, this is disgusting, then most likely that's what's going to happen. But if you start noticing maybe one thing that you like about yourself, maybe that can start changing how you see yourself and your mindset.
Yep. So it's Kim Allen, who's on Facebook. And she said, gossip is a habit. Negative gossip hurts and attracts more of the same ugliness, right? Changing a habit starts with awareness. Consider this your awareness. Now let's intentionally shift this habit. Let's hear it. Let's start the week with some juicy, positive gossip. And so I commented on it, and I did it right away, because I was like, hell yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, right. And I said, my gossip this week. Have you seen that woman over there? Yes, there. The one in the mirror. I heard some crazy things about her. She's amazing, strong, and has overcome a lot. She deserves unconditional love. Again, it's the way we're talking about ourselves, right? And of course, everybody loved that comment, but that's what it is, right? Is where are you speaking about yourself? And like I said, it could be conscious, could be unconscious. It could be, walking down the street and, having a little trip or stumble and saying, oh, Melissa, you're such an idiot or such a klutz. You're putting those thoughts into your head, right? You're creating that negative dialogue that's not helping at all.
No, and like some of the negative dialogue. So I think sometimes we'll be like, oh, like say if you trip, right? You're like, oh, Melissa, you're so stupid, or Steph, you're so stupid, right? And it's like something so simple, like most people wouldn't be like, oh, that was, something negative that I would tell myself. But I think a lot of beliefs are actually created when we're a child, right? And they kind of carry on. And, for me, that's one of the huge things that I started noticing a lot of my negative self-talk came from. And it was actually things that I never even thought that would affect me. And when I started going back to that awareness and being like, oh, okay, now I've caught it. And now I can actually change how I start speaking to myself. So it is crazy. Like one of the things that I focus on in the Love Your Body Naked system is you change your beliefs. And I focus more on like health fitness, but like anyone can do this with anything, right? If you essentially become whatever you believe. So if I believe that I'm not a great coach, I'm a terrible coach, that's probably what's going to happen. It's because I'm going to become a terrible coach. But if I keep telling myself I'm an amazing coach, I'm a strong coach, I'm the most amazing coach, most educated coach, I'm going to take those steps that are necessary for me to go and actually become that person. So yes, there is like a little bit of work involved. You can't just be like, all right, yes, I'm amazing. But it's like, do you know why you're amazing? Like, what are the things that you want to do so that you become amazing?
Yeah. Not only that, but again, going back to the fact that it's okay not to like certain things about yourself, but those are the things that you have the capability of changing. And it's not just changing the fact that you don't like it, right? It's transforming how you think about it,
Exactly.
right? And the positivity movement, I'm going to touch on that for a second. The positivity movement is think positive, be positive, and everything's going to be great. That doesn't work. It does not work.
Yeah, I agree.
I am absolutely 100% against the positivity movement.
Yep.
What I'm saying is not to ignore the negativity and not to automatically say, oh, I have to be positive. No, it's, I can look in the mirror again, right? Body positivity. I can look in the mirror and go, you know what? I really don't like these roles. But if I'm not willing to do anything about it, I still love myself. Do I like it? No, but I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm not saying, oh, that makes me look ugly, or, oh, nobody's going to like me, or, oh, I have to change that. No, it's okay. I'm overweight. I know the reasons why. Do I want to change them? Maybe not right now. I like my Pepsi a little bit too much, and I like to eat whatever I want whenever I want. So, I'm okay with that. And I also, a lot of people are like, well, did you put any activity? Well, I am anaphylactic to exercise. So I actually have a heat allergy that has been recently diagnosed, which I am literally allergic to the heat. And a lot of the times that comes hand in hand with if I go to do physical labor or manual labor and I overheat, I have the potential to go into anaphylactic shock. So, I have to be careful. People talk to me about, intermittent fasting. I can't do that. I get violently ill if I don't eat every 5 hours while I'm awake. It's, I can't do it.
Well, so I think loving your body is not just about going on that diet, right? So I think for me, so I kind of body positivity, body neutrality, I'm all for both because I think different things work for different people, and I think that it's like a journey for everyone, right? Like even for like myself, I was like talking to someone, I think I posted something about, being more positive in general. That was just a spin that, I was going for. And someone wrote there, they were like, I was like something about I think mindset, like negative self-talk. And someone wrote that they were like, I like being negative. And I was like, and that's fine. I was like, there's nothing wrong with liking being negative. I was like, as long as you know who you are and like why you like me or not like being negative, as you understand how that affects you and how that makes you look complete as a person. Like, I know for her, right, if I was like, hey, like, you know, have a great day, like everything's gonna be sunshine and rainbows, she'd be like, okay, like stop, you're just too much, you need to get away from me. Right. And so I think there's always like, there's different things, right? And like going back to body positivity, it's like, yes, you can love your body, and it is knowing that also you're gonna have days where you don't love your body, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, whatever. And it's like part of, you know, that self-love. It's like, all right, if you don't have a donut, right, that's okay. If you don't do intermittent fasting, that's also okay. Like, doesn't matter, right? It's just about, you know, what's gonna find whatever works best for you.
Exactly. Going on to that, sorry, my dog's barking in the background. Going back to that is, you know, if you're negative, and I love negativity, I do, I absolutely love negativity. And the reason is because I coined this phrase many years ago, is negativity is the catalyst for positive growth, right?
Yes. Yeah.
When we're experiencing really negative traumatic events, that's telling us, hey, it's time to grow. It's time to learn. It's time to change this, you know, dig within, reclaim your identity, and let's go.
Yeah.
But there are times where I do enjoy being mean, not in a sense of, you know, I'm going to go actually hurt somebody's feelings, but no, not even being mean. I like standing up for myself. I like feeling powerful enough to stand up for myself. That doesn't mean I'm attacking anybody. That doesn't mean I'm being mean to somebody. That's why I reworded that. But it's knowing that I have that capability. I love the negative parts about myself. That's unconditional love, right?
Yes.
Now, if you have a friend who likes being negative or doesn't like to be that peppy positivity, I'm not peppy positive. I'm a positive person. I'm chill, I'm calm, I'm down to earth, but I'm not peppy. And that's the thing. High vibrational, and that's, a lot of people will associate being very happy, very positive as being high vibrational. That kills your energy a lot faster than anything else.
Agreed.
Because you're not meant to be all peppy and vibing all the time. That drains your energy. And so if somebody's just kind of monotone and just kind of going with the flow, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's your personality, if that's how you express, then that's how you express.
Right. Agreed. And I think that's like, it's taken also back into, figuring out who it is that you are, right? It's just like when you know 1000% like who exactly that you are, what kind of person you want to be, how you want to look, like anything, it's like you want, like once you know that, you can unconditionally love that person because there's no deviation from it anymore. You're just like, all right, this is how I look, right? If you're talking about like somebody superficially, like, I don't know, if I have a nose ring, right? This is a part of me right now. And anyone can make fun of this nose ring. And I'd be like, okay, what is that going to do? Right? That's not going to affect me in any way because it has that unconditional love. So any point when you're speaking to yourself, it's like the same thing. Like if someone tries to attack you for, they're like, oh, I don't think you're doing a good enough job. As a mother, like you should be doing more, but you know exactly who you are. So you'd be like, whatever, moving on, right? Brush it off. Yeah.
Right? Perspective. And that's the thing. Nobody else's opinion should matter in whether or not you love yourself, right?
Yes.
And that's where I come in as an identity coach, right?
Yeah.
Is everything comes back to knowing who you are. And that's part of the 5-day challenge that I'm doing is knowing who you are, right? And it's all about, the 5 ways you're giving away your power and how to start taking it back, right? Because we give our power away all the time. And part of that is that negative self-talk. It's the way we worry about what other people think about us, the way that we, I'm not going to get into all of them because that's part of the challenge, but, sign up for that. With that being said, though, there is this power. Each of us have the ability, the capability, and the right to express ourselves however we want. But it all has to start with one, who are you? Not your titles, not your roles, not your past. Who are you right now? Right? And that's step number 1. And step number 2 is, do you like the person that you're seeing in the mirror? Right? What are you saying about this person? Are you looking at them and saying, I love my eyes, or, hey, I've got gray hair and I'm totally rocking the gray hair because I just don't care. Right.
Yeah.
But it's going into that process and just like, what are you talking? How are you speaking to yourself? Right. And I think that, again, that's my number one tip for everybody on showing up for yourself is, how are you speaking for yourself? And the second part of that is, my second tip to, how to show up for yourself is, when you say you're going to do something, do it. Hold yourself accountable to yourself. Right? Your happiness is not determined by anybody else. Your happiness is not provided by anybody else. If you want an outcome, or if you want to be happy, or if you want to be healthy, you need to hold yourself accountable. Now, I'm a coach, mentor, and teacher. I will teach you how to do these things, but I can't do it for you. You're a coach, right? You can give them the steps, you can guide them through, but if they're not willing to do it, you're not accountable. They are. You have to hold yourself accountable and show up for yourself. If you're able to show up for your loved ones, for your clients, for your friends, at the drop of a hat, if somebody calls you and says, calls me and says, Melissa, I need this. Can you please come and get me? I'll be like, okay. And I'll drop what I'm doing and I'm gone, right? Depending on what it is, I'm doing and I'm gone. But I need to be able to do that for myself. If I'm doing an episode, I was doing an episode not that long ago. And we were about 45 minutes in the episode, and I had to go really bad. Like, there was something going on. I had to get off. And I'm just like, hey, I don't want to end it because I feel bad for my speaker. But then I was like, nope, gotta go. Like, guys, we're done, right? Like, sorry. But holding yourself accountable. Nobody else is going to provide you with what you need if you don't ask. If you don't provide it to yourself, you can't expect anybody else to love you unconditionally if you don't love yourself unconditionally. Now, I'm not saying you can't get it. Not saying you can't get unconditional love even before you love yourself unconditionally, because you absolutely can. What I'm saying, though, is you need to unconditionally love yourself before you can expect it from anybody else.
Yes, I love that. No, I love that. And that's why I use fitness, right? It's just like, you need, like, for people who need something, who needs to like see it, right? Sometimes it's hard if like a coach is telling you, go love yourself. It's like, what does that mean? Like, I don't know how to do that, right? And it's like doing something that you love, that you find joy in, like something that makes you happy. Like for me, I didn't know that fitness was going to make me happy until one day I was just like, you know what, like, what do I have to lose, right? Go and try it, see what happens. And when I stopped working out to burn calories and was like, all right, this actually makes me feel pretty strong and powerful on the inside, that's when I was like, oh, okay, like I do love myself, right? It's like every single day that I go to the gym, like, this is showing myself love. And I was like, every single time that I proved to myself that, hey, I did something that I never thought I could, this is me showing that I love myself. And I love the accountability thing, because you see that in the fitness industry. People are like, let me try this diet, right? You're like intermittent fasting. Maybe I'll go on like Atkins. Maybe I'll do this diet and I'll do this diet. And they're like, why don't any of these like work long-term? And it's when you decide to stop holding yourself accountable, right? So many times is like, I tell people all the time, like, clients, friends, they're like, I think I can just stick to this diet for like 60 days and then I'll be sweet. I'm like, all right, what happens after the 60 days? You just go back to, what you were doing before. And every single time we're like, maybe when you don't want to go to the gym, you're like, oh, I'll just sit on the couch today. I really need to go to the gym, but I'm just going to skip it for today. And the self-love part is, there are some days where, yes, you should sit on the couch and do nothing. But then the other part is, all right, how many days have you actually skipped the gym? And maybe you should hold yourself accountable and you should go. So I think it's like, there's like always like so many different aspects to it, but putting it all together, it's like, once you love yourself and you're actually holding yourself accountable to it, it's like, watch your life grow.
I think it was last Friday's episode. Yeah. So we were talking about, are we creating our own diseases, right? That was Friday's episode. one of the things we mentioned on that episode that's quite relevant to today is your body tells you, right? Yes. Your body tells you what it needs. Your energy tells you what it needs. You tell yourself what you need. Whether you listen to that or not is totally different. There are days, and we did another episode, sorry, not promoting the other episodes, but we did another episode on human design charts and gene keys. Yep. And one of the things that it said about me in that is that I go to a place in the void. And that place, whether that's me watching TV, whether it's reading a book, it's quiet space for me where I can be my loner self and just do nothing. Yep. And that is some of the most important space for me. Yep. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I'm feeling confused or lost or angry or whatever that looks like, or even if I just need a me day, I'm usually binge watching a series. Right now I'm watching Scorpion. Or I'm reading a series of books, and so we're middle of the year. I've already read probably 100 books.
Wow. That's awesome.
In 6 months. And that's, they're not huge books. They're Kindle editions, and not all of them are big, but
that's so awesome.
But again, I'm going through these series, right? And I honor myself. People are like, Melissa, how are you running 6 businesses, 4 kids, a husband, and all of this? And it's because I know what I need. I know that each of my businesses provides me with something different. Each of my businesses, I show up in a different way, right? Not all of them provide the same things. And I take time when I need it. Right? That's non-negotiable, is I take time when I need it. And, if you're walking down the street and you feel afraid, right? Let's say you can go the fast way or the long way. The long way, well-lit street. The fast way, dark alley. Your body's going to tell you not to go down that dark alley. Right? Now, if you go down that dark alley and something happens, you didn't listen. Right? And again, holding yourself accountable, you have answers. When you know who you are and you're able to listen to your energy, to your mindset, to your spirituality, whatever it is, to your body, you learn to find the signs. Pig. He's attacking. He's going to attack my other cats. Come on.
No, but like for everyone
watching,
that's okay. Oh, what a cutie. But like for everyone watching, right? Like see how everything is so interrelated. Like, so if you're like unhappy with your body, if you're unhappy with your career, if you're unhappy with your relationship, it's not just let me fix the relationship. Let me go fix the, my exercise routine. Let me go fix my business, right? It all comes back to like who you are. It's about fixing yourself, finding that relationship with who you are again. It's not like and then that's when the other things will kind of be like, okay, this is what's happening, right? Like you can look at it from any different perspective. You can do all the things that you want. Like if you're happy with your relationship or your job, right? You can take it out in your job all that you want. You can take it out in yourself all that you want, but it's never going to make it better because you're not working on who you are.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. We do take it out on everything.
Yes.
And I love that you pointed that out. We do, right? If my husband comes home from work and he's not having a good day, he's grumpy. Now, does he mean to take it out on everybody else? No, but it happens, right? If I am, my goodness, if I'm hot and I have a heat allergy, if I'm hot, I'm nasty, right? And I have to avoid everybody in my house when I'm hot because I just want to hurt the world, right? But when you're not happy and when you're not in a good place, you do, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, you do take it out on other people. Bullies. And I'm not, in no way, shape, or form do I believe bullying is okay. But 99% of bullies are suffering with a lack of identity, with abuse, with trauma, with whatever it is that's going on with them, right? Suicide.
Right.
When and I always bring this up because this is one of my biggest passion topics, is you outwardly could have a great body, great house, great career. You could be one of the most successful people in the world and still not be happy because you're not honoring your identity.
Yep.
And that is number one. That's why I created a Phoenix Identity, was because we don't have the relationship with ourselves.
Yep.
That bleeds out into everything else.
Yep.
And it bleeds black.
Yep.
No, not that came out wrong. Blood is red, right?
Yeah.
Blood is red.
But it is pretty dark, right? It could be pretty dark, right? It's just like you're making it. Like if you're always expecting something bad to happen, that darkness will always be there, right? I like to use the word, I think this is in spirituality as well, but the concept of self-concept goes back to your identity. It's like who you are. And if you're always like expecting, like everything, there's blood all around you, everything's falling, everything's crashing down. But if you start to change like that self and like starting to go back into, all right, who's your identity? Are you listening to your body and like what it's telling you? So I like saying all the time, it's like, start listening to your body. It's like your body is so good at telling you what it needs. But most of us don't listen because we're like, we compare ourselves to someone else, because we're like, oh, this person has that, so I have to go get that. This person's making that much money, so that must mean I have to go make that much money. This person weighs 100 pounds, that must mean I weigh 100 pounds, right? But if you're giving yourself that unconditional love, and you start showing up for yourself, then who cares how much the other person's making? Who cares how much the other person weighs? Who cares how many children that other person has? It only matters like what you're doing.
There's one more thing that I wanna add to that, and is how often somebody else mentioned this, and I can't remember if it's an upcoming episode or one we've already done, but how often weight loss, income. Okay, so our 7 mindset pillars. So I created the 7 mindset pillars. It's our belief systems in our life, spirituality, relationships, family, friends, career, and finances. 7 most important aspects of every person's life. Our belief systems in there, right, dictate what we do, what we don't do, how we think. All the decisions we make are detailed out in there. And that's part of our identity. Now, if you want to lose weight, let's say your family is overweight. Let's say predominantly majority of your family is overweight. Do you feel guilty and avoid losing weight because you don't want to be the only one who's thin? Do you not want to be the one who said, oh, look, I did it? We are so worried about what other people think that, and I'm going to use weight loss because you work predominantly with weight loss, is, and body positivity and whatever that looks like. If you are somebody who is overweight and you are in a family that is overweight, would you feel guilty and ashamed if you were the only one who actually lost all that weight?
So I think there's a few different aspects to that. I think that number one, yes, there probably will be some guilt, right? Because your entire family is going to be watching you and they're probably going to be extremely jealous of like, hey, I started losing weight, and they would comment on your weight. But I think a lot of other times what comes up is, especially if your entire family is overweight, is you deep down believe that you're like, my entire family is like this, I will always be like this. And I think that's when even before, if you are able to get the weight loss, I think people stop themselves right there, right? Going back to your identity, going back to your self-concept. What I use is a belief releasing technique. You have to let go of that belief that you have about yourself. Whereas if you're always like saying, it's like, my entire family has been like this my entire life, nothing is going to change, then nothing is going to change. Right. But if you, hey, we let go of the fact that, I know I can change because, my entire family might be overweight, but I'm not going to be. That's like the first part. And then you get to the weight loss part. And then, yes, I think that's when all that guilt starts coming in. And I think that's when it ties back into that self-love, right? You believe that you don't deserve to lose weight. You don't believe that you deserve
self-sabotage.
Yeah. And all that comes in. Then
that's not just
letting in.
Yeah. And that's not just with weight loss though. That's with every aspect of your life. right?
Yeah.
If you're the only person in your family, I went to one of my kids graduated today.
Yeah.
And if the rest of your family, but if the rest of your family has never graduated or never gone to college, right? There's that flip thinking, right? I don't deserve it. This is, I'm going to follow in everybody's footsteps, or, guilty of being the only one to succeed in that way, right? And it depends on your variation of success. Now that's, marriage. If your family is 90% divorced, and you're the only one, you might self-sabotage. We do that quite often. I know people who have been in relationships, live in the same house, and then they're not happy. So instead of voicing that they're not happy, they do little things to piss the other person off and get the other person to leave, right? I know a narcissist that does that actually. So we're not going to go there, but that's the undiagnosed narcissist. But again, that is a potential, right? We all have narcissistic tendencies at times. So instead of vocalizing these fears, vocalizing the fact that we're unhappy, we're not showing up for ourselves and saying, hey, I'm really not happy with this situation, or this is how I'm feeling in this situation. That we have to have that expression. And you mentioned earlier, it all comes down to identity. So if anybody's watching and you don't think identity is mandatory, your first stop, then you need to come to me and we need to talk about your identity, because that's literally my bread and butter. But identity is the key. First off, what do you feel about yourself? What do you like? What do you not like about your life? Because if there's areas of your life that you don't like, there's probably something you want to change, because it doesn't fit with your personality, doesn't fit with your self-expression, your true core identity, and all of that. And if you want to show up for yourself, you need to make that choice. You need to be the one to take that first step and say, hey, I don't like this, and it's starting to negatively affect the rest of my life. I need to do something about
it. Yep. And I think for everyone who's like kind of on this journey, right, it's hard. It's a huge change, right? I think most of us are scared of the unknown, right? Like, who knows what's going to happen, right? Maybe it's like, if I actually change myself, will people like it? But then it goes back to, who cares? The only person that cares, that should care about whether or not you like yourself is going to be yourself, right? And it's just about taking that risk and being like, all right, what's the worst that could happen? I like when you use school as an example. So you're in Canada, right? You're in Canada, yeah. And so similar in America, I wanted to take a gap year after high school, and every single person told me no. I don't think there was one person that said to me, oh, that's really cool. You should go do what you love. And nobody said that to me. Everyone said, you're going to regret it. This is the biggest mistake that you're making of your life. They were like, you have to go to college. And I didn't know a lot about myself, but I knew that deep down, I was like, this is something that I have to do, because I was unhappy with who I was. I wasn't sure of anything else, but I was like, I have to go do this thing right now. And if I don't do it now, then who knows what's going to happen? I'm going to miss my chance. And so I didn't actually end up taking a gap year. I did just move out of the country. I went to school. And what's funny is I look back and I'm like, I'm not even doing what I went to school for. And I was like, sometimes I don't regret anything, but sometimes I'm like, I should have listened to myself. And it was like, I knew already that I was like, hey, this is what's going to happen, because I already created that part of my identity for myself. And I was like, this is something that I'm not willing to budge on. And so I don't know if it's same, working, creating a business for yourself. I'm sure there was lots of pushback from other people, but as long as deep down that you're like, hey, I think this is what's right for me, then it shouldn't necessarily matter what your partner thinks, what this other person thinks. I get in arguments with my sister all the time about this, because she knows better, thinks it's better. She thinks that it's a good idea and I should listen to her. And I'm like, well, the flip side to what I think is that I don't see it that way, right? For me, I want to go and take that risk. And if it is the worst idea in the world, oh, well, that's on me, right? That's a mistake that I've made. Whereas if you put a decision into someone else's hands and it doesn't work out, then going back is kind of you're like, oh, I should have listened to myself. This is I should have done that for myself. And you're already doing something for someone else and not for yourself.
Yep. You should. And that is exactly it. You should be doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
I always say from the day you're born to the day you die, you are your own only constant.
Yep. Yep.
Nobody is going to be there. And especially if you live a longer life, right? If your parents are not supposed to always be there, right? You're supposed to grow up, move out, and have your own life.
Yep.
The second part is if you get married or get into a relationship, that might not work out in the long run.
Right.
So if you put all of your effort and time into that person, I'm not saying not to, but without showing up for yourself and they leave, you're going to be stuck going, who am I?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a life crisis.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have a life crisis package, if anybody's wondering. That is a life crisis, right? When your relationship doesn't work out and you're like, who am I? I have to start all over again. Come to me. Second part, when your kids, right? Everybody tells you, show up for your kids. You got to be there for your kids.
Yeah.
What are you going to do when your kids move out and leave and are there? My oldest doesn't live at home. The second one doesn't live with us. And they come when they need something. They come when I need something, but their life does not revolve around me.
Yep.
Right? So you have to change. Okay, I'm no longer mommy anymore and I'm not needed 24/7. Another life crisis. What do I do? Who am I?
Yeah.
Right? Not only that, but your relationship. If you're in a marriage and you have children, 18, 20 years, whatever, right?
Yep.
And your kids are gone and you look at your partner and go, who are you?
Yep. I ask people all the time, like, what are some of your hobbies? And a lot of people, so I've talking to a few mothers, they don't know how to answer that question because they say they're kids. And I'm like, your kid is not a hobby. Like, you don't just like have your kids for fun. Like, your kids are like a separate being to who you are. And I was like, what do you like doing for yourself? What's something that you enjoy? And it's a hard question for people to answer. And I don't think that it should be. Like, it's something that, we're taught, like, even like as kids, right? Like, you go and like play. Why do you play sports? Like, you're, like trying to find something that you do enjoy. And like, obviously some people are forced into doing things that they don't, right? And hope that eventually everyone realizes that it's like, hey, anything that you do in life, you should be enjoying this. Like, and again, going back to doing it for yourself, right? Because you're choosing to show up for yourself. Like, maybe if your son likes to play basketball, right? That doesn't mean like you have to go play basketball all the time, or you just have to sit there and watch. Like, that's something that your son wants to do.
Yep. The other one is work.
Yep.
We throw, especially entrepreneurs.
Yes.
We throw everything into our businesses.
Yep.
Now, if you have a career that you've worked at for 50 years and now it's retirement time, again, another life crisis. I'm not promoting that, but another life crisis, right? Where you've shown up for this job for 50 years. Now you don't have that job anymore. And it's like, okay, what do I like? What do I do? Who am I? Again, it all comes down to identity, right? Showing up is knowing your identity, knowing what you need, knowing what you like, what you love, how to express yourself, how to show up as yourself, not just for you, but for other people, and just creating a life that you love that makes you happy.
Exactly.
Right? That's showing up for yourself. Unconditional love, knowing who you are, showing up and expressing who you are, not only to yourself, but to everybody else.
Yeah. And like, even though it's a life crisis, I see it more as like a period of growth, right? Because like, yes, you're having that crisis where you're like, okay, I'm shedding that old identity. Now, who is this new identity that I want to be, right? And it's like, you can literally do anything that you want. You can be anything that you want. And we're, already taught, like, like as kids, right? It's like your imagination is huge. Like, I want to go into space. I want to be a doctor. I want to, own 10 million houses, right? And everyone tells you, no, you're never going to do that. So then you kind of like start creating, you're like, okay, maybe they're right. I don't think I can own 10 million houses. So then you kind of create like that doubt again, but it's like, literally, it's like the sky is actually the limit. And it's like, I think when people realize that it's like, okay, like when you stop putting yourself into a box and you just leave that box open, then when you do have a crisis, then it's not like there is no, all right, this is just the next natural step. It's any step that you choose that you want to go in.
Yep. I love it. I absolutely love it. And you know, it is. When you have those moments, I call it a life crisis only because most people think that's what it is. Right? Midlife crisis, but we have them all the time. So that's the only reason I call it. But that's why I coined the term negativity is the catalyst to positive growth, right? Because we don't know things need to change unless we're shown it. And because we're so out of touch with our identity, we're so out of touch with our body, with our energy, with our spirituality, whatever you look at it, because we're so out of touch with that, we don't see the signs.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And that's where somebody like you and I would come in. Right. And be like, hey, I know what this means. Let's get working. And that's the thing. And showing up for yourself is just, it can be as simple as just saying, I want something different, or I want to be better, or I love myself, or, just, there's so many little things that you can do to show up for yourself, saying that, I need 5 minutes to myself. Even just expressing, right. And knowing. The other day I posted in my Facebook group, Women Supporting Women Can, I said, I love my children and I will be there for my children whenever they need me, however they need me. But I need an adult only vacation with my husband. They're driving me nuts. And there's only 2 days left of school. For the summer. And so it was like, and I'm just like, right. Like, geez, what do I do? But it's being able to express that, right? And knowing that, I love my kids. And I'll always be there for my kids. They're driving me nuts right now. And I need some me time. Later that night, my husband and I went for a drive. So it was, we needed to do what we needed to do. And it's expressing that. It's asking for it. It's taking that chance. But again, showing up for yourself, holding yourself accountable, and taking the steps that you need to take to create a happy, healthy life.
And I think take small steps. I think everyone kind of feels like they're like, okay, now I have to start loving myself. We're just going to throw everything away and start over. It doesn't have to be that way, right? If taking an hour to yourself seems like this is impossible, I just don't have enough time, do 30 seconds, right? 5 minutes. Literally, I don't know, sit in the bathroom, just look at yourself in the mirror, or, listen to some music. It doesn't have to be something that's super crazy. And, everyone always we all try to do everything at one time. Even as an entrepreneur, in business, we're always like, do everything right now. And then we're like, okay, none of this is working. Let me go back to the basics, start over.
Do the 15-second breathing technique, right? That right there, I will swear to anybody listening, the 15-second breathing technique, you will see a difference immediately. So it's inhale, count to 5 while you're inhaling, obviously in your head. Count to 5 in your head while you're inhaling, hold for 5 seconds, and then exhale for 5 seconds. That breathing technique is so relaxing. It's calming, right? It calms your emotions, it just calms your body. It's physical, emotional, and energetic. And you can't go wrong with that technique.
And being intentional with that, right? Yes, you're going to breathe for 15 seconds, right? But if your mind is okay, I didn't do this, my son needs this, I need to do that, then you're not, using that breath to the maximum effectiveness as possible, right? Is if we're going to take 15 seconds to yourself, make sure that 15 seconds is, I'm focusing just on my breathing right now, because
that's why you're counting, right? Right? Because if you focus on the counting, then you're not focusing on anything else. You have to focus on the counting, plus counting while you're breathing. It takes away all of that. Right?
Exactly. No, I love it.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we get
going? Biggest tip is honestly start very, very slow, and it goes back to, doesn't matter what aspect of your life you're unhappy with, weight loss, your body, your job, your family, your relationship, anything, is go back to yourself. Is, for me, self-concept, for you, identity, same thing, identity, yourself, whatever you want to call it, is figure out who you want to be as a person, because you'll honestly watch your life change. And it's something I didn't believe, but when I actually put my mind to it, that's when, hey, for me, it was owning online business was always a dream. And I was like, this is never going to happen. Online business game. And I was like, yeah, okay, great. It's not that bad, right? And it's like, people say all the time, it's like, you can create the life that you want. And as a child, I never believed that. But now it's like, when you start showing yourself unconditional love, you're showing up for yourself all the time. That's when you'll start to see. And it's like, you're an example, I'm an example. There are so many people around us who are creating the lives that we want. And it's not just some like huge fairy tale. It's like, people are making this happen. We're not any different. We're not luckier than other people. We don't have like an advantage to other people. It's just, we've chosen, hey, we're going to work on our mindset. We're going to choose ourselves first. And I know you said before, it's not selfish. It's something, it's people are going to say all the time. They're like, oh, I think, picking yourself is selfish. And it's not, because this is something that you need to do for yourself. So it's like, again, go back to loving who you are, start small, and you're going to have everything that you want in life is going to happen.
Yep. I want to add to that really quickly is when you say starting small, instead of even focusing, either one, instead of focusing on what you do want or what you do want to change, focus on what you don't like.
Yeah, I like that.
Right? That's your starting point, right? What don't I like? Yeah. Do I not like this? Do I not like that? Okay, well, why don't I?
Yeah, I like that.
And if I don't like it, what do I like instead? Right? And then start there are a lot of different things. Again, I know that part of this episode is going to be this, and part of that is Stephanie's, but join my 5-day challenge. It's starting July 11th. Link is in the description. I am going to post that in the description because it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about, and just, showing up for yourself. And again, it's the Empowered Warrior Women's Challenge. So go and check that out. For anybody watching, please go and check out our sponsor today, which would be Steph. And she is offering her mini course on how to love yourself naked, which is awesome. And I'm not going to get into too much detail about that. The link for that is in the description. And if I didn't already love myself naked, I would be taking that mini course myself. So definitely go and check that out. If you'd like to connect with either myself or Steph, please do so. Our links are in the description of this episode. If you have any questions or concerns, if you'd like to be a guest speaker on the show, or if you would like to see a topic featured on the show, please absolutely reach out to us at justalivetv.com. You can sign up for our newsletter. Go like and follow us on all of our social media platforms. And thank you very much, Stephanie, for joining me today.
No, thank you so much, Melissa. This is awesome. Everyone is going to love themselves now. The world's going to be a better place.
Well, let's hope so. One video at a time. At a time. All right. Well, this is Just a Family. This has been your episode for giving you something to talk about, or Just a Live TV. I'm your host, Melissa Krechler, and I will see all of you on the next episode.